And it's Civil Discourse. Now I'm Mark Small. This is January 14th of 2025. We're orbiting the sun and we're spinning on our axis. And we're going to talk this evening with Cassie Jackson and with David Kenyon about Christofascism. And since we're in Indiana, we know a lot about it. How are you guys this evening?
Well, we might as well be experts, aren't we, after living here?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Well, we have a lieutenant governor who, when I was reading something about Beckwith a couple of days ago, there was no mention of Jesus Christ and a lot of the stuff that his church does and he does. And I've had this hunch the whole time that he really thinks that he's superior to the Son of God because he talks to God all the time. And I think he really might even be wanting to shove God aside in the final analysis because essentially last year he made fun of God in talking about the riots on January 6th. But that's beside the point. Cassie, what's your take?
It's not fully besides the point because we're dealing with people like, Micah, and we're talking about, Christian nationalism. And so I just think that everyone needs to be reminded that Christian nationalism is a powerful movement. It's a powerful movement because it has a lot of money behind it, but it's an unpopular movement in the Christian, as it relates to all the Christian denominations in the United States.
Okay,
And
but when you talk about Christian nationalism, just so people understand, it's talking about basically Protestantism, but also Catholicism can fit into that. But
it's basically just saying the country was founded on Christian values, and the United States of America is a Christian country, and because of that, they are going to reel back the power, that the Romans did, where they used Christianity to try to control the masses, and that's what I think is personally going on, as it relates particularly to this alt-right Christian nationalist movement.
Yeah, but also Christ, I don't believe ever took sides on any kind of wars going on. Nope. Or I think Beckwith talks about him being a warrior, Jesus' warrior, and it's like, well, I always thought he was kind of a peace-loving, socialist hippie kind of guy.
Well, and what's really ironic is that Jesus was actually courted by Jewish leaders. They wanted him to be a Jewish prophet because they recognized that he was a prodigy child, just like the rest of everyone.
Yeah, but also, a lot of people don't realize he was Jewish.
Right, he was Jewish, but they wanted him to be a Jewish prophet, and he himself decided not to jump through all those hoops because I think, again, he was a prodigy, and he understood this higher level of emotional empathy, and that you didn't need to be a ruler of lands or people to be able to be a leader, right, or to be successful. And so I don't remember why I was getting to that or what your point was, but
go then. Think about that for a moment, and David, jump in here.
As Cassie's saying, Christian nationalism is kind of a growing movement, but it's not the largest of movements. It's by comparison, it's fairly small, but small but powerful. The fastest growing movement is probably the nuns, which are the unaffiliated. They aren't generally atheists, but it's.
Wait, who did you say? Oh, you mean non-religious?
Yeah, the nuns.
I thought they said nuns.
I thought he said nuns too, and then when he was like, "But they're not really," I'm like, "Oh, he said nuns." Okay.
Nuns, yeah.
So that a-religious, okay.
Yeah. So and I think it really points to the decline of the relevancy of mainline Protestant denominations. Most of these denominations aren't really speaking to the concerns and needs of the younger generation. It's not to say that things are going to die out. Things will change, but any predictions that religion is just going to disappear, I think it just hasn't played out that way in U.S. history. We see times where there's revivals and kind of surges in numbers. During the 1960s, there was sort of a peak in the mainline denominations. And since about that time, there's been this steady decline. And in recent years, the decline, I think, has gotten sharper. the places where religion is growing are non-denominational churches and Pentecostals, like the Assemblies of God.
Okay.
Yeah, and what do we see in these denominations? We see preaching of the prosperity gospel, the idea that those who are blessed are rich. The
That's
idea
very
that,
evangelical too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
evangelicals just technically, Christianity generally is supposed to evangelize or go out and seek converts.
But there's difference between evangelizing and evangelical. They're different.
And that's what I wanted to do, though, is make a distinction there. Just so, because a lot of times people will go along with right-wing Christofascists, not realizing that's what they're doing, because they'll use those general terms to suck people in, like any cult. And then once people are in it, they're saying all these songs and everything, giving all their money away, and they go, wait a minute, these people are assholes.
Right. David, you were talking to me a few days ago about it. What?
No, go ahead.
Oh, we were talking on private message a few days ago. I wanted to see if you could remember and bring it up. On just like, because the different, I'll just bring Jesus up as an example, and this was our example that we were using, but just how, Jesus being like the Son of God. And I think we had used that as an example, and you had gone into like the different ways that Christians or different Christian churches want to interpret that. Like, are we going to lose people? Are they going to lose people if it continues to be this like idea that it was an immaculate conception? Because that idea is like, come on, all right, like, or is it more of a metaphor, or is it do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
Yeah. So in some denominations, they're very rigid about, statements of beliefs, that, you have to believe in a literal resurrection. You have to believe in, that Jesus performed all these miracles. Some denominations, expect people to believe in a literal creation. So, other denominations, especially in the main line, are a bit more give their members a bit more theological latitude, and some of this caused really a split. Where you'd have a group of, say, Methodists, and they would be pretty consistent. Over time, there became this split between traditionalists or fundamentalists and people who were more modernist. And as time went on, we see sort of the remnants of this even today, where you've got evangelical Christians versus mainline Christians. But yeah, there can be different ways of interpreting, who God is, who Jesus is, and there are some commonalities and some basics in belief.
I mean, if you look at like a key holiday, I mean, if you're looking at Easter, I mean, a lot of people don't realize all the implications of Easter, where Jesus was crucified. On the third day, he rose from the dead, rolled away the stone from his tomb, walked outside, saw a shadow, and went back in for 6 weeks. It's really not known that well. There's no laugh. You didn't crack a smile. I thought that was a pretty
I thought it was funny. I think I got the groundhog reference.
Okay, we're coming to an end on this segment. We're going to switch over. We'll be coming back in just a minute to continue on episode 60, talking about Christian nationalism and Christofascism. Hold your thoughts.